Hello y'all on YouTube, this is Rob with Rob's Nerdy Knives. Today I have a very interesting and fun, I believe, impressions review of a knife that I've had for a little bit. This is the Traditional Pocket Knives exclusive QSP Penguin Plus. This comes in the jig titanium handles, which is just beautiful, with a milled deep pocket carry clip, relatively deep, not super deep, but pretty deep. Does have a lanyard hole for those of you lanyard folks, you know, hey, you have them, right? It is right hand tip up only, so lefties, I'm sorry, this is kind of an exclusive just to righties, but if you don't mind carrying a right hand, you can enjoy this as well. It is a frame lock, as you can see right there. It does have a steel bar insert and over travel stop, which is nice. All the hardware is T8s, which I think is just fantastic. So you can get to everything with a single screw. The regular QSP Penguin and the Penguin Mini had some T6 hardware, which is, you know, expected for a smaller knife, right? This one is definitely a little more expensive than the other guys, but this completes my set. I have all three of them with the jig titanium handle. And let me go ahead and use the flipper here, by the way. Nice jimping on the flipper. Beautiful acoustics, by the way. This is also M390 blade steel. I don't know if you can see that. All three of those knives are M390, and this, as is this. The action on this is beautiful. By the way, I put skiff washers in this, which I have another video that I'm going to be dropping as well. And let me tell you, I didn't think I needed it, and I did it just to try it, and I'm glad I did, because the action is beautiful. Simply beautiful. I love this. I mean, it was already great before. I tuned the detent. I don't like a super strong detent, you know, one that is really hard to overcome. Now, for some flippers, people like really strong detents, right? And if you go out of your way because of the way I tuned it, yeah, see, I can fail it now. But I don't ever open a knife. I don't ever try to, like, limp wrist it, right? You know, I'm even with just a barely of a flip, I can not fail this knife. Even with barely a flip of the thumb stud, I'm not going to fail this knife. I mean, it's got a lot of weight. Once you get it going, the momentum of it's going to keep it going. You really have to go out of your way to fail this as you deploy it. But that being said, so that is the manufacturer. Obviously, we already said it's QSP. I talked about it. I said it was exclusive. The designer, I think it's a QSP designed in-house knife. I don't know if there was ever a unique designer. Hey, if you guys know, could you write that down in the comments? Because I've actually never thought about who designed a QSP. I just assumed it was a QSP knife, and the company itself designed it, and I don't know if they attributed it to any particular designer. All right, so it has thumb studs for deployment. It has a flipper, which is really nice. That flat grind comes up to right here where it's not really a fuller, but it is definitely the flat part of the blade. And because of that, you can get your middle finger in there with a little bit of pressure, and you can easily reverse flick it. So I have three ways to deploy this, technically four. You have the flipper, the front, the reverse flick, and the fuller. And then likewise with the left hand, I get over here. I can also get in there and do the reverse flick there, but I can also easily do the fuller over there. And I can easily do the thumb stud, easily do the thumb stud in the front way, and then of course the flipper. So that is really nice. Those are easy. It is a frame lock, and it locks up nicely. As you can see, we probably got, I'm going to say, I don't know if you can get the light on there, it's probably a good 20%. I want to say maybe 25%. Yeah, 25% lockup. And it, like we already said, a steel bar insert locks it really well. Over travel stop is great. Oh, and also, there is really a nice cutaway to get to that frame lock. You can see that, and it's nicely chamfered as well, which makes this very comfortable to get into, even as thin as it is, because it is rather thin for a larger knife. This is definitely a full-size knife, I would say. I mean, we're looking at 3¼ inch blade, goes almost to 3½ inches if you go to the handle, and it becomes almost just shy of a full 8-inch blade. It's just a little shy. I want to say it's 7 9/10 or 8/10 of a, you know, 4/5 of an inch, but I would consider this close to a full-size blade. Everything's nicely chamfered around the edges, so that really helps out as far as all that. But the action and the cage ceramic ball bearings, especially since I put skiff in there, it's just beautiful. It drop shuts every time, all right? And you have that action with no blade rock. It's in there nice and solidly. And then we'll go into the detent. You'll see how it nicely clicks in. There you go. So it clicks in. Any detent? No detent lash or detent, you know, looseness or whatever you call it. I guess detent lash. Is a blade centered? Yes, it is. Now, when you look at this, yeah, you can see it here. So you see the edge on here. It's a little shorter than the edge over here. This edge is a little longer on this side. Let's see if we can get that. Than it is on this side. So when I eventually will reprofile this edge, I'm going to even those out. And that's unfortunate, but you know, technically it's in the budget realm. You know, it's not supposed to be a really high-end knife like their some of their other ones that they have. Like I think they came out with a Rhino, and that's supposed to be like their jump into the higher end knives, kind of like the Wii knives, right? So This is close to it, I think, really close to it as an exclusive, but you know, I'm okay with that because the edge is still, ooh, gotta be careful. Don't drop your knife as you're even trying to do for the camera there. I could cut myself. But really nice edge, very sharp. It is relatively short. This is probably about 20 degrees, I'm gonna guess, maybe 18, 20 degrees. A little longer edge will definitely give it a nice sharpiness. If you know, I come down to it, it does come to a pretty thin edge, but it is a rather thick, robust blade. So it's not gonna be a super slicey one, right? All right, so let's do some measurements on this. Let's weigh the knife. All right, so we're already in ounces. Ooh, my got a little screen's a little dirty there. All right, so we're nice and zero, so let's weigh that. So it's 4.24 ounces, which is not surprising. It is full titanium. You notice if you look in there, there's no relief cut in the titanium. So that's, you know, 4.24, it's almost 4.25 ounces. That is pretty heavy. You know, definitely a more robust knife. Let's go ahead and measure the length on this one. So you've already saw right here, that's 3 inches. So we're about 3.25 inches for the length of the blade, I would say. If you go to the base of the handle, I mean, it's right at, if I go to right there to the tip, yeah, we're right almost at 3.5 inches, probably just a little bit shy. So you're definitely over the 3 inch. So if you're in a state where you gotta be under 3 inches, keep that in mind, right? You might want to get the regular penguin or the mini penguin. Handle-wise, we've got, for grip-wise, we're just shy of 4 inches, probably 3, I want to say 3 3/4 or 3 4/5 of an inch, right? If you do use the trigger, which you can choke up and do the trigger here. You just got to hold on to your jimping, and there's some nice jimping there, so it does hold your hand in place if you want to do that. Which is nice. So you're not, less chance of slipping off, but you still have to be careful, right? You want to be careful. But because of that, we can, let's go back over here. You can kind of get yourself into the realm of almost 4.5 inches of grip. So, you know, makes it a little nicer for large. I have medium to medium large hands, right? And they're large width-wise, because when I go into a glove, my fingers really fit comfortably in large gloves, but they're short, so there's always a lot of extra flappy room for those. If I can get a medium glove that stretches, I can get my fingertips to the very end, right? So as far as my grip is concerned, it's a large grip. So I think an XL, maybe even a 2XL, and if you're comfortable choking up, I mean, 2XL, 3XL, it's definitely a large hand kind of knife. I think you'll be very pleased. I mean, it's not a gigantic knife, but it's definitely, I would say, a full-size knife as far as that's concerned. So that's really cool. All right, let's look at the blade thickness on this, the blade stock thickness. So let's take a look at that. Get it to 0. There we are. So we're at 141 hundredths of an inch. So we're almost right at between 1/10 and 2/10 of an inch. It's a pretty thick, robust blade stock, which means you can do some serious work. And you can see that tip coming down here, very strong to the tip. So it's definitely a good work tool. And because it has that wonderful, nice tip here at the end, you can definitely get into boxes like, you know, dog food, cat food, fertilizer, mulch, whatever for your yard. If you're working on, you know, opening cases of water, I mean, definitely got a little pokey, so you can do that and get some work done. You can actually choke up and do some very precision cutting right here as well, and can really hold it for a pinch grip. You know, everyone, that might be important for you, especially if you're like on a cutting board like this and you want to cut something. That works really well. I can tell you, having stropped the M390 on this thing, it's been really cool. I can typically, you know, if it's a softer steel and it's not been heat treated well, the edge rolls back and forth, the burr on there. And this one's worked out pretty well for me. I'm not going to say that this is like the absolute best heat treat in the world, but I can tell you that my experience has been good and it's retained its edge fairly well, which I like. That's kind of a nice benefit there. All right, talk about the category. So this is definitely going to be in the regular realm because this is under $200 for sure. I think it was like $190 or something when I bought it. It might be more now with inflation. You never know, things go up. But it's definitely a regular end knife. It's not a high-end knife, and it's definitely not a budget knife. Now, the Penguin, regular Penguin and the Penguin Mini, their price range would definitely be close to the budget, but they're still just a little bit over with the exclusives. All of these, if you get the non-exclusives like the D2 Steel or 14C28N or 154, you will get down to the budget realm. Absolutely. These can all be budget variants as well, which is nice. And some of those will have liner locks, and they'll have scales on the outside. This is a frame lock, which I like this knife. This is, if I'm gonna have a version of the QSP, this is my favorite, personally. I love the aesthetics, and I like the whole collection of all three of these. It just feels like a really nice knife. I love the action. Everything about it is just done really well. I'm thankful to traditional pocket knives for getting this exclusive put together. Just really awesome, right? So that's the knife category that I would put it in. So let's talk about the purpose. Well, the purpose, what is it used for? Well, as you know, with all my knives, I carry them and I use them. Some more expensive knives, I may have a 5th pocket knife with me, and I may not go out cutting down some trees or bark or doing, cutting something in the yard or off a branch. But this is definitely a knife that I would do that with. This is an everyday EDC carry. I'll use it to do stuff. I'll cut cardboard. I'll do all sorts of things with it. And so eventually, if I don't already have it, I'm sure I have some scratches already on the blade, because this is a satin finish, right? You got the 2 different directions, which is really nice. And I love the angle here. That's a nice touch on there. Beautiful flat grind. It does come to a relatively thin edge, but because of the heavy stock, I mean, it's not going to be a super thin slicer, but it does slice well. But I can cut through most everything with this thing. I really do like that. So for me, that is just really awesome, all right? So I think for everyday use, EDC carry, because it's so nice, I can carry it to church, I can carry it to work. Now, if it's a little too big for maybe work, and somebody at work, you pull out a knife like that, and they'd be like, oh my gosh, that's a huge knife, you need something smaller. They'd want you to bring something like this, that's a much smaller blade or something like that, it's more discreet. Then maybe get the Penguin, get the regular size Penguin, and that's really nice, right? But I feel like it's nice enough to carry in great places. It looks nice enough. It's a classy looking knife. Gentlemen carry for sure. But yet at the same time, it's a really good hard use knife. The frame lock, everything works really well and solid, right? I'm not going to go bushwhacking with this. I'm not going to cut logs with this. Get a fixed blade for that. I really don't recommend doing that on a frame lock, or a liner lock or anything, right? You should use a fixed blade for that. Just my opinion, my 2 cents. You do whatever you want. It's your knife. You're free to do whatever you want with your stuff, right? Obviously, that's your right. But that's my opinion on that, and I'll just share that. Ergos and feel. So the hand design, I think, is beautiful. I love the jig titanium. I love that whole touch. It is nicely rounded, even though it could be much more aggressive. I will tell you that the first Penguin that had this was a little softer on the edges. It's not harsh. It's not cutty. It doesn't dig in. Don't get me wrong. But they did do a little extra buffing, I think, on the edges. This one is not quite as buffed on the edges, but it's not harsh, and you can definitely see that it's been absolutely rounded. So there's that, which is still very, very comfortable for a much larger knife, right? The handle design with the frame lock works really well. I love that. I know it's not a lefty, but you can still use the clip for an easy left reverse click, and I think it's just left or right-handed, it holds really well. So I love the handle design. I love everything about it, the clip and all that good stuff. Even the lanyard hole that's kind of out of the way. I mean, I could care less if there's a lanyard hole. If this was all titanium, I'd be fine. But worst case, I look at this as a speed hole and some relief, some weight relief, right? Albeit it's super small, but you could call it that. Deployment design, I love it. I love the fact that they added the flipper on this size, works really great. And the acoustics, here, let me get it up next to the camera, to the microphone, you can listen. Just a really nice acoustic, right? And let's do the thumb flick. You can hear that. It's just a really nice acoustic with that titanium handle. It almost has a song, if you will. It's not quite Hermanish, I get it. It's not up there to those custom, semi-custom mid-tech knives. But I like it. I really like the design. It's kind of catchy, kind of like when you get a Andrew Demko. It's got that clicky-clacky kind of nice sound that's very fidgety and fun to deal with. I mean, you either love this or you hate it, and so if you hate this, then you're going to hate that. But if you love it, it's just super fun. The same with this. I really like that. So the deployment design is great with both the flippers, the thumb stud, and even my middle finger reverse flicking. Right? Oop, well, move your hand out of the way so you don't cut yourself, right? Reverse flicking like that. Just make sure I didn't cut myself. I didn't. I'm good. So that works really, really nicely. Now closing, it is a frame lock. It works really well. The relief cut there is great, easy to get to, drop it, and then you just allow the weight of it to close, right? You just got to make sure you get past the detent. So if you're wondering where the detent is, here's the detent. I've crossed the detent right there. Once I'm there, it'll drop. So and crossing the detent, just let it drop right here on your finger, usually you're good. So if you're quick and you drop it up here, you've not quite passed the detent. You could still get it past that if you know how to do it right. But the problem is if you get stuck up there, a lot of times when you're stuck on this part of the detent like this, it's easy to re-engage the lock, right? So what I'm talking about is you want to get past that detent and then it just drops really nicely. So I love that. I love the cutaway. I love the way it drops. I love the action. This is beautiful. Especially I put skiff washers in there. That made already great action even better. And I had a chance to clean it out. Fantastic. Fidget factor. Well, you've got thumb studs, you've got a flipper, and you've got the knife itself with a middle finger flick. This is definitely, I would say, a 9 out of 10. You get a 10 if you had a front flipper, right? You can do everything with it. And if you had a button on there, I mean, it'd be like a 10 out of 10, right? So yeah, I would definitely say I would give this a 9, maybe an 8.5 out of 10, but a 9 out of 10 as far as a maximum flipperish, fun, fidgety that you can do. Now, as far as that 9 out of 10, it's 100%. It's a full 9 out of 9. Everything works fantastic. This is just a fun knife I can carry all the time. I like this knife a lot. It's fun to flip. It's fun to fidget with. It works really well. It works great left-handed, which I really appreciate for all the factors that you have, which is nice. You know, sometimes when you get a left hand, it's hard to get past this because you put your finger on that. Like if I put my finger on there, it's going to be hard to reverse flick. I got to get my finger off that frame lock for it to flip. So I can do that, but if my finger's got to be over here for me to get past it, where I'm not putting that pressure on. And so sometimes just using the deep pocket carry clip helps with that. I mean, because if you're in a hurry, you can immediately move your hand down there, boom, go, right? So that's what's nice. Now, I can still get this to work here if I make sure my finger's over here, but the problem is I might have just enough pressure where it's going to fail to deploy. And so this, for me, is always a safe thing. But then the flipper always works really great. If I get here, nice grip, it works beautifully. So I want to say it's 100% for the 9 out of 9, right? All 9 out of 9 fidgety goodness you can enjoy 100%. So it's beautiful. I love that. So basically my overall thoughts and is it recommended? Well, yes, absolutely 100% recommended. I think you should get this knife. Get it. If you haven't, go get it. Wait for more drops. When he makes more of these, get them. This is a great knife. I feel like Penguin's one of those knives that I think you would be very happy with. If the ergos speak to you, if the aesthetic speaks to you, don't get it if this is not your cup of tea, right? Get the cup of tea that's yours, you know? But QSP makes a lot of other variants and other knives, so there might be a lot of options out there. Check out traditional pocket knives. That's what I'm going to link in my link below with all my affiliate links and my coupon that you can get, even if you can go to White Mountain Knives, get 10% off using the RNK10. You know, if you find a variant of the QSP over there that you like, get it over there. I mean, there are different versions. If you like the smoother titanium, if you like maybe a G10 or maybe the fat carbon, you know, versions, there's different ones out there. They're just really nice. My thoughts are, I love this thing. I do. I carry this a lot, and sometimes I have to be careful not to carry it too much. And I like carrying all 3 variants of this knife. Especially if I have shorts on, like if I'm out in the yard, I'll carry the mini because it's just comfortable to carry. And I love that action. That action to me is just, it's got the action of a higher end knife. I like to call my QSP Penguin Pluses from the traditional pocket knives, these exclusives, I like to call them my nicest inexpensive knife or my nicest cheap knife, right? For what you get for this knife, even at the price range of what this is at, I feel like it's absolutely great deal. You are getting, for the $190 range, $185, forget what this is, you are getting the best bang for your buck. Now, mind you, if you watch this video down the road, a few years from now, prices could change. So just whatever the price is at that point, you know, at least when I bought this, it's a great, great deal. I think you can't go wrong with this, so I highly recommend that. So that's my thoughts on it. It's definitely going to be in my recommended knives. It's a great knife. I think you would really enjoy it. So that's my thoughts on that. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, if you found it be entertaining, of value, if you found it to be worthwhile, something you know, that was interesting, fun, or worthwhile, please consider liking this video. Hit the like button. And if you've already hit that like button, would you please consider subscribing as well? Subscribing and liking the video really helps out my channel, helps me to grow, to be able to produce more content. And if you like the content, maybe hit the notification button so you can be notified of future content. And if you've done all that, check me out on Instagram here at robs_nerdy_knives. Again, on Instagram at robs_nerdy_knives. I would really appreciate that. You guys have a great day and a great week. Bye.